take it out here. This is the new MacBook Air, and you can get a feel for how thin it is. Yeah, there it is. Look at this.
Well, that was back in 2008 when Steve Jobs introduced us with the MacBook Air, calling it the thinnest, slimmest, lightest MacBook and laptop of that time. It also started a new era of ultra-light thin laptops, aka Ultrabooks, with most of manufacturers following Apple's footsteps to give consumers their best ultra-light thin laptops. Generally, a MacBook Air is mostly considered an entry-level MacBook, which can get upgrades with a cost, and had Intel chipset inside its core. But in the end of 2020, Apple really revolutionized their MacBook lineup by bringing their own M1 Silicon chipset, and I would say it was incredible. So before we dive in further, if this is your first time here, my name is Salim. Welcome to my channel and my review for the MacBook Air. MacBook build and design have always been praised. They have always been built with aluminum unibody. Also, we never heard complaints about the hinge. In fact, they were always structurally strong. Well, I wish the bezels were thinner. Since we are in 2021, we have seen many manufacturers cut down the bezels and made them smaller. Only area MacBooks were lacking was with their butterfly keyboards. Since 2015, when Apple switched their entire MacBook lineup with their controversial butterfly keyboard, it was eclipsed with lots of faults. The mechanism was so fragile, if any piece of debris would sum up, the key would stop working or would type double letters. But now with the new generation of MacBook, Apple has introduced the Magic Keyboard, which was a sigh of relief for most of us. I was never a Macintosh user by any means. If someone would come and ask me which laptop shall I buy around 9 months ago, I would easily suggest them a Windows laptop. As Apple was using Intel processor for years, I personally felt Apple was not that different from the Windows. From loading the Mac OS and running apps or using it on a day-to-day basis, it was quite the same experience in performance. As it's been quite a while now, Apple has been building its own silicon for the iPhones and the iPad, and with the introduction of the new M1 Silicon chipset, Apple has got things right, and so do my recommendations. The MacBook Air M1 is stunningly fast. The M1 Silicon is a totally different experience. In fact, it's a total revamp in the performance. It's ready to go the instant you open up its lid, all thanks to the new Apple's own SoC. The moment I started using it, I felt the performance of an iPad Pro, and it is stunningly responsive. From loading the apps, browsing through Safari or Google Chrome, and scrolling to complex web pages feels effortless for this machine. Even doing any graphical work or video rendering on Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere Pro was shockingly good and fast. Though it's got a 7-core GPU, I would say with ease that a 4K video rendering was good even without a fan. Yes, I repeat, there is no fan inside it. I know most of you guys would be in awe, but it has got the same heatsink and passive cooling system of an iPad Pro, so it won't hustle nor throttle. Whereas the MacBook Pro has got an 8-core GPU and a fan inside it, the scores are right in front of your eyes. These scores are not as huge as expected. Even with the fan or GPU, yes, there is a difference in the video export and scene benchmark, but comparing it with previous gen, the gap is quite smaller. If you're totally into extreme video rendering, I would suggest you to go for a 16 gigs of RAM in the MacBook Air. Otherwise, 8 gigs of RAM is totally fine. As Mac OS is fully optimized with the M1, browsing around the system menu or swapping through apps is very smooth and hassle-free. Though we are only a few days away to get the new Mac OS Monterey, which has got more optimizations, features and looks to it, I'm sure Monterey OS would be even faster and smoother. I know most of you guys would be thinking with the M1 chip, maybe Apple is abandoning the Intel-based apps, but it's not the case here. It's because Apple has got the Rosetta 2 emulator, which can translate the Intel-based app seamlessly and smoothly. In my testing, I didn't face any issues, while some apps transition was even smoother from Windows PCs or laptop. Even with the M1 chip, you can run iPad and iPhone apps, but don't keep your hopes high, as some apps of iOS and iPad OS won't run in the Mac, as some developers have chosen to keep iOS, iPad and Mac OS separately to make them run smoothly in each platform accordingly. The M1 also gives MacBook Air a decent gaming performance, with a 7-core GPU in the MacBook Air and an 8-core GPU in the MacBook Pro. From my testing, I was able to run any 60 FPS games with ease. It ran everything smoothly. I suppose it's not a surprise, since Apple's ARM series chips always delivered solid performance on iPhones and iPads. And it feels kinda strange though to have an ultra thin machine like the Air running complex 3D games very smoothly. Apple M1 machine has proven that they are both powerful and can run efficiently. As per the claims of Apple, it can give you 18 hours of battery life, and indeed it gave us the same in my battery test as well. And also we have one of the finest LED backlit Retina display, which is bright, sharp, and with the True Tone technology it adjusts the color temperature according to the environment. Also it has a 227 ppi with 400 nits of brightness, and it supports sRGB and P3 wide gamma mode. The speaker output is also one of the best I ever heard in an Ultrabook. Alright, now talking about my concerns, which aren't many. In fact, there are only two concerns which I have, and it won't be a deal breaker for most of us. The first concern I have is the camera, which is still a 720p. I wish it was a 1080p, as we have been seeing this camera for quite a while now. And my second concern is I would still like to see more than 2 USB-C ports for the accessories. I know these concerns won't be a deal breaker. In fact, one thing is loud and clear, that these machines are incredibly fast, they have tons of power and performance. Looks like Apple has done a course correction from switching Intel based SoC to their own M1 silicon. And if Mac OS is not a concern, and you're looking for a laptop, I would clearly recommend you the M1 Macbook Air, which is now for around $850 for the base variant. With that, I'm signing off this video, as there are a lot of exciting phones and gadgets coming around this fall, starting with today's Apple's event for unveiling their new iPhones lineup. So don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for future notification, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!